intrinsic to the specific instruments that they are playing. So, what is Carnatic music? Carnatic music is an ancient tradition of music, and it's originating from southern part of India. Some of the key concepts are the shruti. So you can hear this is the shruti that I'm playing. It's like a drone sound. It sets the pitch that all the compositions or all the performances are sung at. Everyone has their own shruti that they will perform. And then the two kind of pillars of Carnatic music are raga, which is the melodic scale. It's kind of like the key signature in Western music. And the tala, which is the rhythmic scale, which is like the time signature of Western music. One of the key unique facts about Carnatic music is that it incorporates a lot of improvisational singing. So that's in some ways similar to like jazz music, where you have a lot of improvisational aspects. Carnatic music, one of the foundations of it is you'll see a lot of improvisation. Specifically, one of the first things you'll see before a song is performed is a raga being elaborated on with a ala. So what is a raga? Raga is the melodic scale that is used in a composition. There are different types of ragas. You have, in an octave, there are 12 notes. And you can pick a certain subset of these notes, and they'll define what is called the scale or the raga for a given composition. And the different types of ragas are Mayarata ragas, which are like the kind of base scales. And then from those you can build on you can subdivide those further and get Janya ragas. So, for example, in Western music we have the C major scale that is kind of equivalent, the parallel of that in Carnatic music is the raga Shankara. And another raga, Mayarata raga, which is one of these basic ones, all of them have 7 notes in the ascending and 7 notes in the descending scale. One of the basic ones is called Madurai R. And other ragas also are there, Tori, Kalyani. These are other popular ragas that will come up. Then there's these Janya ragas, which may or may not have 7 notes in the ascending and descending scale. They might have combinations that go up and down. So we'll be presenting some Mayarata ragas and also some Janya ragas today in the presentation. So just wanted to introduce those concepts. The second pillar of Carnatic music is tala. Tala is a rhythmic cycle, and the main instrument that is keeping the tala for us today is the rhythm. But we also keep it on our hands, so you'll see us clapping like this. That is how we count the beats. It sets the pace and it sets the length of each line in the composition. There's different types of talas. You can have different beats in a cycle. You can have different numbers of notes in each beat, and then you can change the speed. So once you fix that number of beats in the cycle, number of notes per beat, you can keep that, but then sing it at twice the speed or half the speed, or sometimes even like 2/3 the speed, stuff like that. So in a tala, there are a couple of important parts. Wherever a line of the song begins, where the line of the tala begins is called the sound. It's the start of the tala. And where the line of the song begins relative to the start of the tala is called the yada or the yada. This is a word in the English grammar. There's different words in different languages to mean these things, but this is a commonly used terminology. So the two important parts, this will be relevant for the part where I talk about how to build mathematical progressions that lead up to these things, is you have the start of the tala, and then you'll have the start of the line. So for example, in this Kriti, this is a Kriti song composed by Sri Raga Tori. The line of the song is starting 3 beats, 3 notes after the start of the tala. So song is shown in a different way by clapping, but in general, the important thing to keep in mind is the number of beats in each cycle. Then there's these chop tones, which have kind of like an odd or kind of an uneven number of beats in each cycle. Common one is Mr. Chapel, which has 7 beats. Technically, you can say 3.5, but you'll sing it in a speed where there's 7 beats in each cycle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the thing is that the unevenness is caused by this first thing being kind of like an off the beat. Kind of. Whereas in other downs, like Rupa down here, 1, 2, 3, all of those were evenly spaced. In this jump downs, the signature of those is you'll have that uneven spacing. You'll have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that first double hit is kind of like is an uneven spacing. Then you have Carnatic, which has 5 beats usually in the normal speed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, that's that uneven spacing. You'll have that double hit. So these jump downs are characterized kind of as this double hit, this uneven spacing. And of course, you can sing all of these sounds at different speeds. So for example, in Rupa we have 1, 2, 3. But if I sing twice as fast, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 3, you should double speed it. That's 6. Then you can double that again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can, so we usually call those as first speed, which is this. Then 1, 2, 3. Then putting two notes in each hit is called the second speed. Putting 4 notes in each hit is called the third speed. If you do that for something like one of these chop downs, the 7 becomes 14. So the thing about chop downs is that's why it says there's a 3.5 beat cycle, because if you sing it in first speed, technically it's 3.5, but no one really will sing it in first speed, because then the half note kind of gets, you don't know where to put that. So instead you double it so that you get a whole number of beats. So then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is the chapel. So if you double that, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I can say those words that ask me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's 14 notes that come in each cycle. And you can also do things where you change instead of in one beat. Generally, in one beat you'll have some multiple of 2 or 4 coming in. You can change that to instead 3, 6, or 5, 10. Well, that's called changing the narrative. That Krish will be presenting that stuff later on in the presentation. So I mentioned earlier that Carnatic music contains a lot of improvisational singing. So again, one of the first things you'll hear before a song, let's say you take the main piece of a concert. Before that, you'll generally sing an alapana, which is like how you melodically improvise a raga. There's no rhythmic structure that is inherent to an alapana. It's just kind of you take a raga and you just improvise on it. So for example, let's take the raga, Shankara. This is the parallel to the C major scale in Western music. So this type of thing will go on for a long time. If you listen to a long concert, you can see them building it out like this for maybe even 20, 25 minutes. And then once the vocalist finishes, the violinist will usually play their version of that. The other type of thing, this is kind of in between, like something with no rhythmic aspect and something with full rhythmic aspect. This is called tam. Dana was seen in pieces called Malladis. So this is where they take a song, which is not really a full drawn-out song, it's just one line, and they will do a lot of improvisations on it. And so they'll first sing an alapana, then they'll sing a dana, which is, so for example, notes that lead up to the line. So you can't end somewhere high and then take the line in a low place. If the line starts in a certain note, you have to lead up to that generally. There's some exceptions, but most of the time is you want to lead up to the note that the harmony started on. Okay, I guess that was so the next subject is going to be the math part. So any people interested in modular arithmetic is what we're going to talk about. So this is just dealing with integers, no real numbers anywhere here. What we're doing is it's like clock arithmetic is another way to is another term that people give for this. What we do is we take the integers, which are whole numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, also minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, and 0, of course. And we partition them by their remainder, we divide by a given number called the indexes, and that's n. So for example, in modulo 3, any number we're going to think of as its remainder when we divide it by 3. So let's see what that is. So if you take a number 6, well 6, when you divide by 3, the remainder is 0. So 6 we're going to say is equal to 0, or congruent to 0 is what we use. And 3, 6, 9, 12, all of them are the same as the number 0 in this system. Similarly, if you take the number 4, you get the remainder 1. So we're going to say 4 is congruent to 1. So is 7. And so is minus 2, because if you divide minus 2 by 3, the remainder that you get is 1. And similarly, if you do 2, 5, 8, all of these have the same remainder when you divide by the number 3. So in modulo 3, we say that all of these numbers on each line are the same as the red number. So then we can forget about the other non-red numbers. We only care about the red numbers. And so instead of having an infinite number of integers to work with, now we have 3. So we move on from an infinite number of numbers to 3 numbers, which is a huge improvement if you think about it. We don't have to count nearly as much. So how does that help us, and how does that handle it? Well, you can do a lot of things in this reduced in place. So for example, you can add numbers mod n. So if we do 3 plus 5 and we're working mod 7, that's equal to 1. Well, how do I do subtraction? Well, subtraction, 3 plus 4 is 0. Well, that means 3, usually you would say 3 minus 3 is 0. Well, here, 3 plus 4 is equal to 0 on 7 because 3 plus 4 is 7, which is the remainder 0 when you divide it by 7. So 3 plus 4 is equal to 0. In normal arithmetic, you would say 3 minus 3 is 0. So 3 plus negative 3 is 0. So that how we define the additive inverse is, what number do I add in this modular arithmetic system so that I'll get 0 when I add it. So for example, if you do 3 plus 4, 4 is the additive inverse of 3. So 4 is not negative. So that's what we get. So then you can do subtraction of 5 minus 6. It's just 5 plus the additive inverse of 6. The additive inverse of 6 is 1. If you think about it, 6 plus 1 is 0. Awesome. So 5 minus 6 is just 5 plus 1. So this is equal to 6. Awesome. So you can, that's how you define addition and subtraction. You can also do multiplication. Awesome. On n. For example, 3 times 6, again we're working mod 7. 3 times 6 is 18 normally. But 18 is 14 plus 4. So the remainder is 4. So 3 times 6 is equivalent to 4 mod 7. How do we get inverses here? We do the same type of thing. Well, if I want to divide by a number and get 1, that's what I say is the multiplicative inverse. So 3 times 5 is 15 mod 7. But 15 mod 7 is 1 again. So we got that 3 times 5 is equal to 1. And that's the goal when you're trying to find a multiplicative inverse, is you want to see what number do I multiply by in order so that I get 1. So normally 3 times 1/3 in normal arithmetic is 1. So what is playing the role of 1/3 here? 5. So 5 is playing the role of 1/3 in mod 7 for the number 3. So 5 is the inverse, multiplicative inverse of 3 mod 7. An interesting thing though is that multiplicative inverses will not always exist. For example, you think, if I have any number other than 0, right? You can divide by any number other than 0. But when you're working in a modular arithmetic system, depending on what this this mod index is, you might not always be able to derive that anymore. So for example, let's say I'm working mod 4. Well, 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4, but 4 is 0. And 2 times 3 is 6, but 6 is 2. So no matter what number I multiply by, mod 4, I will never get 1 as the result, which means 2 doesn't actually have multiplicative inverse in mod 4. And that's a really important thing. That's what you kind of lose when you take this, when you make this reduction to mod modular. You lose that kind of aspect that every number you can divide by. You can no longer do that. The thing is though that if m and n are relatively prime, which means they don't have any common factors, then you can actually get the multiplicative inverse. So that, and I'm saying all this because all this will come up when we're making patterns for Computational Science. So how do we apply this for Computational Science? Well, you'll think, okay, so in that bottom one, that was Ali, if each beat was hit twice, and let's say I'm singing in third speed, that's 64 notes. Okay, so if I want to make a pattern, I have to count multiples of 64. That's like too much. And usually this improvisational singing, a lot of these, you can practice them, you can write them down beforehand, but that's not the traditional way to do it. It's to come up with it on the spot. You don't want to be counting multiples of 64 on the spot as you're singing. Either you're going to mess up the counting or you're going to mess up the singing. So there's some tricks that you can use to reduce that number down a lot. So instead of, let's say, I had 64, let's say I want to sing something that had 100. So it's like, I have 100, then I have, how many notes do I need to make it come to the correct place? Well, I don't know. But as long as you work in the modular basis that is defined by your DOM, you'll no longer have numbers that become arbitrarily large. You'll just have numbers that go up to the length of your DOM. So I'll do that on something that's in Sundar. So that's 14 notes per cycle when you're singing in third speed, right? So you have 14 notes per cycle. So let's say I have a pattern of 5 notes. Now I'm going to repeat it 3 times. Okay? So 5 times 3 is 15, but that's just one note. So instead of having to keep track of 15 whole notes and saying, okay, if I want to make this entire pattern come to like 2 plus the sum, I need to start it 15 before that. Okay, that's like how many is that, right? But when you think about it in the modular, like 15 is just the same as 1. So I should have started 1 before the place where I want to go. So 1 is a much easier number to keep track than 15. So that really kind of helps you there. So if I wanted to sing that thing, a pattern of 5 notes, repeat it 3 times, and come to 2 after the sum, I just have to start it 1 before the place I want it to come to. So I want it to come to 2 after sum. I will just start it 1 after sum, and the entire thing will come to 2 after sum, because there's just 1. So if I want to sing that 3 times, then, well, that's 15 times 3 is 45. That's like, okay, that's way too many numbers. I can't keep track of 45 before, no. But it's 15 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. So now it's just 3. I have to get track of 3 notes. So instead of having to keep track of 45, it's just 3. So you get a lot of reductions if you count in modular arithmetic this way. It means that you have to be good at keeping track of remainders. But if you practice that stuff, you can get pretty good at keeping track of remainders on the common numbers of beats that are numbers. So for example, if Mr. was 14, Ruvadam will be 12 if you sing in second speed or the third speed. Things like that. Alita will be 32 or 64. Carnatic will be 5 and stuff like that. So a demonstration that we want to do here is we're going to take this set of songs. There's 15 songs total here. And what we're going to do, the songs are so those are the 15 notes total. What I'm going to do is I want to hold each note for 5 beats, then 4 beats, then 3 beats, then 2 beats, then 1 beat. Okay, so that's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How many? That's 15 total. Total note is coming. So that's 15 times 15 plus 225. How am I going to do? No, right? But we work in this log arithmetic. If you notice, 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 14. So if I ever get a multiple of 14 there, that's just 0. So I can just cancel that entire thing out. I'm just going to keep track of that 1, which is 15. And that 15 is still, you can reduce it again, you get 1. So you only have to really keep track of 1 note instead of 225. So that's the power of this modular arithmetic here. So let's say I want to sing this pattern so that it ends 3 after the sum. So 1, 2, 3, and then it has to, that's where the pattern has to end. Like 1, 2. The reason is, if you were at the concert yesterday, that's the same place that the song, the line of that song was going to. So if I wanted to do this pattern for that song, this is something I can do. So it's 15. So I just need to shift it so that this pattern, the last cycle, when I sing it in, when I hold each note for 1 beat, it comes to 3 after. So to do that, I just have to take the line 4 after. If I do that, 1, 2. So that's holding each note for just 1 beat. Doing that, I started 4 after the song, it came. So that's all I have to worry about. Now I can do this entire complicated pattern and not have to worry about where it's going to start. As long as I know that this single pattern comes to the correct place, the entire pattern is going to come to the correct place. So we're going to represent that now. exactly that same place again. that's like everything is even, it just comes correctly back to that same place. Those are easier to construct because you know exactly how many notes you need. Because if the dom is 14 long, I just make multiples of 14 coming up to that place. I started at the same place, has to come to that same place. But the harder one to come up with is sound theorem, because you have to start it at the start of the dom, and then you have to finish it at a place that's different. So how do we do that? How can we use this modular? So let's say there's n notes in the cycle of the dom. Last example was n is 14. And then let's call the atom e. And that e can be 0 if the line is starting at some. So for some motivations, e is 0. And then let's say you have k notes in each cycle of the coding. So that's how many notes that you want to make. What you want, you're singing the coding 3 times. So you're singing 3k number of notes. So 3 times k. And that has to be congruent to E mod n. So 3k has to be congruent to E is the equation that we're working with. Well, that's easy to solve, right? You just divide by 3. Well, you can't really divide it, as I mentioned in the previous slide. You have to multiply by the inverse of 3. So as long as we know what the inverse of 3 is, we can solve for k, just the inverse of 3 mod n times E. So the only thing we need to know for this common set of doms is what is the inverse of 3 in that modular basis. So for example, if we have adi in one place, so each hit is hit once. In second, in third speed, then the n is 32. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So each thing is 4, there's 8 beats, so 4 times 8 is 32. 3 times 11 is 33, which is 1. So we just found the inverse of 3. What do I have to multiply 3 by to get 1? It's 11. So if the atom is 2, then we can use the formula. We just have to multiply the atom 2 times the inverse of 3, which is 11, which is 22. Well, 22 is kind of a unwieldy number because it's not really, its only factors are 11 and 2. So you can't really divide that further. And usually you want these patterns to not just be some random string of notes, but to be some structure. You want the cycle itself to be further divisible. So instead, we can just add another 32, because remember, we're working with mod 32. You can keep adding multiples of 32 or subtracting multiples of 32, and nothing will change. So 22 is the same as 54, or any other number that you want to get by adding 32s to it. So then, once you have 54 is a nice number. You can divide this thing by 3. And by 2. So it's a very nice divisible number. And then the specific patterns that you choose, then that's up to the artist's creativity and the aesthetic quality. Remember, is Carnatic music, while it has a lot of mathematical aspects to it, it's not like a purely like mathematical formulaic type of singing. You have to have some aesthetic quality also coming through this pattern. These mathematical tricks can help you think of the patterns or place where they need to start, but you can't just completely apply that. So how do we make the codeway? That same example. Our codeway is generally split each cycle. So we have 3 cycles. Each cycle is generally split into 2 halves. The first half is called the Purvam, literally means first limb, and Uttaram means second limb, or half, the one that comes before, the one that comes after. The Uttaram is usually going to have strings of 5, 6, or 7 notes. So, for example, this is 5 notes. Gani Sanida. Gani Sanida would be 6 notes. Gani Sanida. So these commas mean a pause or a break between notes. So you hold it's like a rest in Western music. Then, so for that previous example, remember we were working with the number 54. So 54, how can we divide that further? 54 we can write it as 36 plus 18. So in the Purvam we can keep 36. The Uttaram we can keep 18. So then, how do we make the Purvam? We can divide this 36 further into 12 times 3. And the Uttaram, the 18, we can divide into 6 times 3. So this means each cycle we can do 12, 12, 12, followed by 6, 6, 6. And then we can repeat that 3 times. And the whole thing, if we started at the beginning of the dom, should come to if you ever have something that's coming 3 times, an easy variation you can do to it instead of saying the same thing 3 times is you can subtract 1 from the first one and then add 1 to the second one, because then overall they'll add up to the same number. So if something is coming 3 times, instead of saying 4, 4, 4, you can do 3, 4, 5, that'll be the same total. So that's like a little trick you can do. So the raga I'm going to use here is the Janya raga. It's Hamsa Dhuni. And there's 5 notes depending on the scale. Sa re ga pa ni sa sa ni pa ga re sa sa re ga pa ni sa sa ni pa ga re sa. The song is Vinayaka. And the line that we're trying to make this pattern come to is in the last verse of the song called the Charan. Several rounds like that, getting longer and you want to end with this pattern. So the pattern is going to be, first, we're going to think of 3 12s, then 3 6s. The 6s are going to look like this. Instead of Gani Sani Da, we're going to do Gani Sani Ba. That Da is not presented as Da. Then the 12 we're going to split as 3 plus 4 plus 5. So, 7 patterns. Right? So it's like it's a specific pattern of notes itself. So what you can do is you make the last part of the pattern that you're singing, you make it sound like the structure of the line itself. So what does that mean? So if you do that, then So that's what the concept of a Purutham mode is. So we're going to demonstrate that. How can you do that? Well, that structure is 9 notes. So 9 plus 9 is 18, which is the same as this 3 sixes. So all we have to do is replace the last 3 sixes with this 9 plus 9. So there. 4, the one note, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can like hold the note for each varying numbers of beats. Then again, I mentioned Malladi. This is really like a combination of mathematics. You'll see that in these Malladi. So if you listen to these, you'll hear a lot of mathematical aspects. They will sing the same line in different speeds, different parts of the line will come in different speeds so that the entire thing adds up to one whole cycle. It's like really, you can go really all out with this, the mathematical aspects of that. I unfortunately don't have the time to speak too much on that right now, but I'm happy to talk to you after the presentation if you have any questions about that. So now I hand over to Krish who will speak on days.
Hello everyone, my name is Krish. Thank you very much for joining me. So I'll be talking about what days are and how you can use them in various things in percussion and also vocally too. So what's an array? So an array is the amount of notes you fit in one beat. So the most common thing to do is to this one, which is 4 notes to be any note plus 4 to 2 basically. So we have that with the Geetha, and that with the Geetha, you're doing 4 reads, that with the beat is 4. You're doing that activity in that zone, 1 per beat. You're doing 4 for each beat, which is also this one. So, and if you want to do that, which is double speed, you can do so basically all you're doing is doubling and you're doing 8 moves per beat. It's still considered traditional, but it's called a main column, but it's just double speed. So even though the tradition is the most common, you can also do other things. So instead of doing 4, you can do multiples of 3, just this scenario. So that beat is 3. You're doing this 3, 1, you're doing this scenario. And it's the same concept in column or double speed applies to this one too. So if you do 6 instead of 3, it's still this one. So so it's still this one, but we're just doing double speed. And this can be applied for any amount of notes, but like the most common ones are 5 listed on the slide. So you have fun and you just find it. So so that's 5, and this array, and something array is 9. So all of this, mainly like especially ternary and array and ternary, you can use the rhythm and rhythm, which is a small portion that rhythm plays in a main song typically. So yeah, you can explore many things in these numbers. Yeah, so I'll play some samples. I'll play, yeah. So that was just a small sample of this array. This is how you would start if you were transitioning from this one, this array, and this is how you would typically begin. So now I'll play with proper. You can use it's common to someone Adikalam, or it's common to someone Mr. Adikalam. So you can use this in other rhythms as well. So that's it. So if you play this 3 times, it's a chord by dictionary, and you can use this for dynamics and other things. And similarly to this, you can play any chord dice for any of these ideas in dynamics. So yeah. So next, I'll be talking about chord dice percussion. It's very similar to like melodic things because it's the same And then as well as the Purvanu, you can also shoot the song, shoot the chord for that song. So basically I'll just try to demonstrate the same concept that Sreeram used on the Purvanu, where you try to finish the end of the chord in order to match the song basically. So it adds like aesthetic ability, which is really good. So I'll play one chord for the called it's in double item and it's in composition. Yeah, so yeah, I'll play one chord that is nice. Yeah.
Composing is sejenak untuk lakukan yang pertama composing.
So you can see how the song American is coming in basically a blue circle. So it's going something like that, right? So it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, basically. So the first application that I did in this word is in the Uttaranga. And so basically what we're doing is 3 5s, so and then each of those kagas is scored, which is matching the sound. So once you do that 3 times, when you compare it on, it will sound like if you come back to something, you will match the pattern. So this is like basically the same thing that Sreeram did with the other chord, right? It's just basically applying the reading the sound back to the chord, so it is more aesthetic. And also the same concept can be applied to RDs. RD is when you're singing a composition, for the middle of each line, for the Malladi Charanam, we're going to play a small like mathematical things, 4 beats, 6 beats usually, in the middle, and then in the end we can do a little bit more. But in the middle we have RDs like this, and the same concept of chord where you try to match the thing to the beginning of the next song element. You can also apply this in RD. So, for example, in Jagannath, so I'll play with RD that will match the melody. So, Computational Science melody, I'll play with RD that will match the melody.
Actually, so you can see the difference. First, play another just a regular melody. So it'll just be a regular melody that will fit the dog, but not the songs. And then you'll see the difference. Why it will sound nice if you play something that is specifically fit to the song. This is one of the St. Tyagaraja's Pancharatana, the first one in Carnatic. Is show their creativity that they can make these patterns fit to the song, and it kind of like increases also the feeling that that's created overall. Next, I'll hand it over to Geetha, who will explain some other aspects.
Namaskar everyone. My name is Geetha Ganesh. I am a head and disciple of Shyamala Krishna and the local disciple of Shyamala both were from Connecticut. And I'll be talking about two different concepts. First, I'll be speaking of how to accompany a performing artist on why they constantly develop aspect and how they approach artists. And I'll also be talking about specific types of patterns known as analogies. So, for accompanying with the Carnatic, a lot of the times for more simpler formations or patterns in Computational, it'll be on the spot. So like when we were doing our demonstration of Computational and Carnatic and Malladi, that was all mostly on the spot. But for more complicated Carnatics, usually the artist will provide you with like a sort of structure. But in the event that you are not provided a structure and they somehow introduce this Carnatic into the thing, the first thing typically has to do is that they have to know the air down and the starting place of the Carnatic. So they have to like, keep track of the garden while they're simultaneously accompanying. And they should try to understand a general portion or part of the pattern or the structure overall. It's like there's no surefire with mathematical tricks to accompany with Carnatics for provided. So understanding this is mostly based on listening to concerts and practicing accompanying the audios of performing artists. So for instance, if you take an old concert recording, there are many on YouTube. You can play along with the singer as they're performing to try to understand and gain more of a stage presence awareness as well, and figure out how you approach getting to that point, even though you have no advanced knowledge of that part itself. Another thing is to gain a clearer understanding and grasping these patterns is to practice combinations of basic lessons. So typically when musicians start learning the art form, they'll be introduced to different basic lessons such as study recitals or general recitals and the such. And combinations of these lessons practicing them at high speeds will give you not only the ability to understand the art form, like the pattern that the performing artist is giving one, but it'll also increase your muscle memory when you're practicing your fingers, and it'll enable you to more easily play the pattern. Because it's one thing to understand what they're performing, but it's also another thing to be able to replicate that with your fingering as well. And the important thing is, when you're in the heat of the moment and you have a new part becoming with you, you want to try to replicate it, you shouldn't memorize the exact rules. Because sometimes adding extra brain power into focusing on memorizing those extra notes can make it harder to play the actual correct note because you're so focused on getting the exact notes correct. Or it'll be the other way, where you have it exact, but you won't have the correct notes. So it's easier to just not focus on the exact notes they're singing and focus more on the basic structure of the pattern. And like we mentioned before, there are certain ragas that are more phrase-oriented as opposed to having a scalar approach. So we talked about very different ragas like Maya, Malladi, and Cary. But there are certain ragas such as Leaping or Analogies where the raga is more phrase-oriented. So you have to sing phrases in a particular way or to approach that raga. If you have even the slightest deviation, it can sound like a different raga. So this is also where listening to concerts comes into play to a greater understanding of the structure of the raga itself, so that when you do replicate the Carnatic, even if it's not the exact notes, you're still staying within the constraints of the raga. And like I mentioned before, larger Carnatics and more complicated quotas may be told in advance by the performing artist, so you can have time to practice and gain an understanding. But it's not necessarily the case for simpler quotas because, like I said, with listening to concerts and practicing along with the accompanying audience, a lot of simpler quotas are something you're expected to understand beforehand when you get to the professional level. And sorry, so I would also like to talk about analogies. Analogies are types of patterns that you can use or multiple aspects. It's they're geometric in configuration when you look at it written out in a linear format. So, for example, you have what's called a Gopuchayati, which that translates, Gopuchayati translates to cow's tail. So if you look at the tail of the cow, it starts off with a wider range and it will like narrow down, like an upside down triangle. So you start off with the pattern of written is Sariga Manda, Riga Manda, Gamanda, Manda. So it's decreasing in no patterns, but if you were to arrange that linearly vertically, it will demonstrate a simplifying sort of shape. And this can also be applied to syllables or rhythm patterns as well, not just for singing. And then you have Shrota Bhakti. So Shrota Bhakti is referring to when you have a stream and it becomes into a larger body of water. And similarly, the slams or the syllables will maintain a pattern where you have a decreasing value and the numbers consecutively increases. So Manda, Gamanda, Riga Manda, and Sarina Manda. And both of the first two yatis that I mentioned are actually present in the words of the Kriti by Sri Swami Vijita, Vyaganaja Yoga Vaipam in the Bhagavana Bhairavi. So if you look at the Pallavi, just saying the words, it follows the Gopuchayati pattern. So it's Vyaganaja Yoga Vaipam, Adanaja Yoga Vaipam, Raja Yoga Vaipam, Yoga Vaipam, Vaipam, Bhavam, Bhavam. And the important thing is all of these have a particular meaning. It's not as if you're just randomly cutting out the syllables. All of these phrases have their own inherent meaning, which adds to the beauty of the song. And in the chapter, we have Shokalathayati. So the Shokalathayati words in this case would Sham, Prakasham, Swarupa Prakasham, Tattva Swarupa Prakasham, Shiva Shakyari, Sakala Tattva Swarupa Prakasham, and Shiva Shakyari Sakala Tattva Swarupa Prakasham. So all of that's Shokalathayati because the words are increasing in syllabic count and like I mentioned before, they all have their own inherent meaning. And next we have Mridangayati. So Mridangayati, as I mentioned, these are typically geometric in shape when you arrange them vertically. So I haven't written this vertically unfortunately, but if you were to arrange this pattern, it would look similar to the curvature of the rhythm. We start off, yes, we all move right here. So if you notice it has a sort of curved structure to it, where it starts smaller at the ends, and it's increasing around the sides. So you can also interpret it as having a short Bhakti and then consecutively having a Gopuchayati. So Manda, Gamanda, Riga Manda, Sari Gamanda, and then you go back down to Riga Manda, Gamanda, Manda. And if you look at that linearly, it will resemble the shape of a Manda. And next yati, we have a Dambadu yati. So a Dambadu is a type of percussion instrument which is kind of the opposite of a rhythm. So you can interpret it as having a Gopuchayati and consecutively a Shotavahayati, where you have a decreasing pattern and then it will go back to increasing. So Sariga Manda, Riga Manda, Gamanda, Manda, Gamanda, Riga Manda, Sariga Manda. And it's also known as a Veda Yati. And then the next yati I mentioned is the Samayati. So Sama means, we talked about it as referring to the beginning of the pattern cycle. But it can also refer to everything having the same, because Sama and Sanskrit means the same. So in this case, every unit has the same length, and all of the units, they have to sum up to the cycle of the pattern. So the one I've written here is actually somewhat equivalent to Computational, which we just did before. So we have Sari, Riga, Pagapa, Riba, Nisa, Nisa, Risa, Riga, Nisa, Riba, Nisa, Para, Madhukasana. And all of these are 4 beats each, so it's important to keep that unit the same length to be a Samayati. And you finally have Vishamayati, which is that doesn't have any particular structure or shape. It's generally created based on the performer's ideas. But they have a sort of structure to it, it's just not as defined. So for example, you could have a performer where you have a 5-beat pattern and the next using 4 beats, and then so it'll be 7 and then it'll be 3. There's no clear progression for these patterns, but ultimately it is a yati because there is a pattern-based constraint in that field. And yeah, that's it.
So yeah, especially again talking about how it is for when an audience has to play back a song. Actually, it reminds me a lot of my guru is Malladi Suribabu, and his guru is Geetha Ganesh, and that school is very, very